Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. So I'm going to do something a bit different today. I'm not working on the board, I'm not working on the control panel, I'm waiting for parts. So I thought I would get one of my old locos, Duchess of Hamilton, Pacific class, that I bought probably 7 or 8 years ago for about 65 quid, 70 quid second hand. And as a DC loco, it worked fine, no problem. I'm going to try and convert it to DCC. Now I've already taken this apart because I wasn't going to make this video. I thought I'm just going to do this. And then I thought, well, this is my first time fitting a decoder. Everybody has a first time. So I thought maybe it'd be worth doing the video to help other people. Hopefully, or learn from my mistakes, whichever. And so because I've already started, I have removed, you know, the little suppressors, the orange things, electrical things, and that would normally have gone from this connection here to the chassis. We don't need that to convert this to DCC, and that's why I've cut it out. Now these older Graham Farish locos have a negative earth. Now if you're familiar with automotive electrics, then you'll know what a negative earth is. And that is on a car, the return circuit, if you like, is the body of the car. It's the metalwork of the car. The chassis and the engine and the gearbox and all that, they're all earthed. It's called earthed in automotive, but really it's the negative. So we run a wire to a light bulb on the car, say, and then we don't have to run a wire all the way back to the battery. We can just connect it to the chassis or some bodywork, as long as that bodywork is of an electrical conductivity, it'll be fine. And then we have a big thick lead from the chassis somewhere to the battery, and it all works. And it's called a negative earth system. And I think these locos work the same, in that the chassis is part of the circuit. So this block here and all here behind the wheels is part of the circuit. That means we need to wire it up different to, say, a newer loco, where we just interrupt the positive and negative pickups, put the decoder in, and then run the grey and orange wire to the motor terminals. That doesn't work on this, because one of the motor terminals is this part of the chassis, and the brush in the motor sits in it. And if we were to just connect a decoder the normal way, as we would with a newer loco, we'd do a short and probably blow up the decoder. We've got to connect to the brushes, and we have one here. You can see the brush inside there. And we have one under the plastic of the wheels. And what we need to do is insulate the feed to the brush so that it doesn't short out on the chassis of the loco. Now to do that, we buy a special thing. Now I'm sure we could make something like this, but in essence you get some little plastic bits of tube and some little top hat plastic bushes, and it's called a Digihat conversion kit. So these parts are supposed to insulate the chassis from any power that we're putting through to the brush. and you get some instructions. I can't remember where I bought this from now. Don't know, I can't remember, but if people need to know, I can let you know. So you get all your instructions, and yeah, I'm going to give this a go. So we're going to give the loco a bit of a service as well, because it's sat in a box for the last 5 years. And so we're going to take the wheels off, we're going to give all the contacts a clean, hopefully fit the decoder, and hopefully put it on a piece of test track and set the loco up. I can't run it round in a circle at the moment because I don't have a loop, but I can put a bit of track down on here and we can have a play. Now I'm going to fit, it's only a 4-function decoder from Hornby, and this is, is there a number for it? Some reference numbers on the back there. Now, and I think I'll be able to fit that in the cab area in here, because that goes straight through. So I think we've got enough space there to hide the decoder, just about. And then that leaves me the tender empty, other than a pickup. And then at a later date, if I wanted to and needed to, I could perhaps fit a stay alive in there. But for now, I just want to make it work DCC. Locate the brush clip on the underside of the chassis as per the photo. Okay, so the underside. So I need to take out these screws. Now this one's got a nut on the back. It's not in a little nut, so don't lose that. And then we can, that wire, don't need that, that's something I've done. There's the pickups, and then we've got the wheels, which will be a nightmare to put back together with all of the linkages, but that's part of the fun, and I'm hoping we can just slide that apart. There. So all of that, the linkages, the wheels, and the pickups, I'm going to worry about later. Underneath we have this little brass clip, and that holds in the brush and the spring for the motor. And it says, remove the clip using a small screwdriver. Careful, there is a spring and brush underneath. So I'm going to turn it that way, and then if anything does fire, it's at least heading that way and not onto the floor. I'll put my finger over, flip that side of the clip off, and that side, gently push them away. There we are. So that's the clip, don't lose it. And then, very carefully if I can show you, can you see the little spring here? That's the little spring that we mustn't lose. So I need to gently tease that out. There we go. And then in here now should be a carbon brush. So I'll just right, that doesn't want to come out. Not to worry. What we've got to do, can you see this little brass bush here? that's what the spring sits in the carbon brush, and we've got to get that little top hat brass bush out to put a plastic one in. So I'm hoping that I can just lever this out somehow. There's a bit of side movement in it. I think I'll put under it. There we go. So that's the little brass bush out. Put some lights on. There we go. So the brass bush is out, and the carbon brush is actually stuck in the end of it. I need a thin piece of wire to poke it with. There we go. Can you see that? That little thing is the brush. Note which way it comes out, because you need to put it back in the same way. Right. This little brass top hat we don't need, but I'm going to keep it because that could be very handy for something else. Okay, what we've got to do now is open our little bag of bits, and we want the top hat, the plastic top hat. So that's the plastic one, and we put that in there. Let me just check. Place the Digihat into the chassis. It should slide in easily with only a little resistance. Do not force it. If it's sloppy, if it's a sloppy fit, the chassis may have been previously drilled or is part of a rare variant with larger brush holes. In either case, the fat hat will be needed. What different sizes? Is there two different sizes in the kit then? They look the same to me. Okay, so we've just got to put one of these in that hole by the looks of it. I'll be the one that needs a fat hat. You watch. Oh, that just clicked in nicely. Okay, that's the brush back in the hole and down to the motor. Replace the spring. So the bush should drop flat. Yeah, it did, into the Digihat with minimal resistance. Replace the spring into the Digihat. Right then, I've got to start thinking now about connecting wires from the decoder to the motor. Now I don't have a pin, a plug to plug this into, so I'm going to cut the wires off here. I'll leave a few strands, say 10 millimeters of cable on the plug, because then I might be able to use it for something in the future. Right, that's that. Now, what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to put a piece of shrink wrap over the decoder chip, because my grubby hands all over it won't do it a lot of good. And then I can hold on to it and not put grease and oil and dirt all over the chip. So I've got to solder now one of the motor wires from the decoder to the little brass cap that fits over that spring and what have you. Now, my understanding is that black, we obviously are going to take and connect to the negative pickup from the tender. Red, we're going to take and connect to the live pickup from the rails. Blue, we won't need. Is that an orange? I think that's meant to be an orange. We connect to one of the motor poles. White we won't need, green and yellow we won't need. And mauve, I don't think we will need. So they're the 4 wires that we will need. Orange and grey, I think. Seems to be a standard, orange and grey to the motor. I'm just trying to see their instructions. Here we go, connection specifications. So, motor right, orange, motor left, grey, left rail, black. Yeah, so red and black to the pickups, and motor left, grey, motor right, orange. So, yeah. So they're the 4 wires that we need. Let's get these in some sort of order now. That one. Okay, so these ones I'm not going to need. So we're going to bend them out of the way for now. And again, I won't cut these off short if I don't have to, because I can maybe fit some lights to this in the future, and have a front headlamp and things like that, and that's gonna then be a reason to fit the stay alive. So red and black to the pickups on the loco, grey and orange to the motor. So I need to solder one of these, the grey one or the orange one. They're showing orange to the top one, and I'm working on the bottom one, so we will go try and solder the grey wire to this clip. Now I've got to solder to this, and this is filthy, and this will be a reason for a loco not to run too great. I use brake cleaner, automotive brake cleaner. I'm not suggesting that you should, and I'm not suggesting you should spray it in the enclosed environment either. Definitely don't do it if you're smoking or something. Right, and then I'm just going to wipe that in there, get this cleaned up. Hey, I've managed it. And then they give you some little clear pieces of shrink wrap, not shrink wrap, heat shrink, that we have to try and fit. I should have perhaps put this on the cable first, I think. I'm going to have to now try and bend it around Now I'm going to unsolder that, do that again. Lovely. So that's the little clip soldered to the wire. And then this bit of heat shrink, we have to somehow get over the wire and the clip. Okay, so that's the little clip with the insulation on, the heat shrink stuff. Both sides, the wire going into this side. So what I've got to do now obviously we have to insulate the sides of the clip because that contacts the chassis, and because the chassis is involved in the pickup from the rails, the little plastic bush that we put in insulates the spring from the chassis, and these little plastic things here insulate the clip from the chassis. So power is coming along the wire into the clip, down through the spring to the brush. So that's got to go push back on without losing the spring. So I suppose what I should do is test that I don't have any continuity between this clip and the motor, the chassis, sorry. Okay, so if I've done this right, there should be no continuity between this clip and the chassis. Bugger. So I must have a split or something in the stuff. Okay, I'm going to take this off again. Yeah, you can see there, as I've pushed this back on the chassis, it's forced this down, part of the insulation, and that's bare clip. So that's going to have to push back up. I've got to somehow get this clip on without that happening again. Try again. No. Ooh. I think I might have done it. Because we had, let me see. Nothing. Excellent. So that little clip is back on with the insulation pieces on the sides, springs in, brushes in, etc. I've got to do exactly the same on the top one now. So I'll just get that done and I'll come back to you. Too much solder on that. So I'm going to use my solder sucker. That could have ended quite badly. I could have lost the clip. Right, that's fine. I think what I'm going to do on this one, instead of trying to solder to the side, making it extremely difficult to put the little plastic sleevey things on, I'm going to put them on the sides, and I'm just going to solder the wire to the top of the clip. Don't see why that won't work. And then I need to put this clip back on. That's tight. Actually, do we need to put the... Because that's plastic. All this is plastic here. So I wouldn't have thought we needed the insulation on the sides of that one. I'll take them off, make it easier to put on. And we'll test it. That's better. So they're the two motor wires from the decoder to the motor. Let's just check continuities again. So have we got anything from this one? Got nothing there. Shorting. Bottom one. Nothing to the chassis. So I think we're good. So now I've got the motor wires attached. I'm going to just check the gauge of these wheels with a gauge, and they're quite a long way out. Get them all clean and do the back of the wheels as well, because that is where the electrical pickup is. And so the contact for the wheels, you've got inside here, you've got two plates, one attached to these pickups and one attached to these pickups. You can see that the plate is sandwiched between the two there. This one is on the top. So that has to now sit. You have to get these little pieces down behind the wheels. If you bend them out slightly, you'll probably get a bit better pickups. So a bit fiddly to get in. Okay, that was a right faff getting all the con rods back together, and the grey wire came off the solder as well, so I ended up taking it all apart again and reattaching it. And this is how they show it, and I'm not convinced that'll last very long. If the wheel wears through there, through that piece of cable, there is a gap, but only because of the insulating shrink wrap stuff they give you. If the wheel wears through that, then I assume we're just going to have a short circuit. Anyway, what I've got to do now is connect the red wire to here. Now this would have been where the suppressor wire was, but when I cut it, it came off. If when you do one, if you can leave a piece of wire on here attached to the chassis, That'll really help you attach the red cable. I'm going to have to try and solder it to that metal. And the black wire, like I said previously, will attach to the black coming from the tender. So I'm going to get them done and we'll see where we're at. Well, it works. My first decoder fit. Almost, not finished yet. That clicking noise you can hear in reverse, that's one of the pickups in the tender. Just a real, I'll put it all together and got it working, and then it was intermittent. And by just pressing down on the tender, it works, it's fine, it works every time. So I took the tender apart, and you've got the little brass contacts, and they press up on the solder pretty much of the wire, and I bent them upwards, and it's been a lot better. But when I put it together, I obviously got one of the little tabs, the little pickups, not connected properly behind the wheel. So I've now just got to put this to bed, really. So let's do that. The code is going to be in there like that. So I just need something to wrap this up in, don't I? So it doesn't short. I could unsolder that, put some heat shrink on it, and then shove it in the cab, I think. So we'll do it that way. Okay guys, well clearly I've got a little bit more work to do on that just to get it to work properly, but the decoder is working. It's the pickups on that tender. The tender just falls to bits all the time, so I need to find some little screws and do a proper repair on that. And I think I've then got a loco for the layout. And the point is, I couldn't, if you look at a new loco, I mean, with DCC fitted, you're talking what, 200 quid minimum. The decoder cost about 20 quid. I think it was 19 quid, something like that. And the loco, I think I paid about 65, 70 quid for it. 8 years ago, say. So for 100 quid, I've got a DCC loco. Admittedly, only motor control, there's no sound or anything. But it's an option for later on. Because now I've done the wiring on the motor and changed the, altered the clips so that I can run a decoder through here and on the bushes. I could now fit a different decoder in the tender, a sound decoder, and have the wires running between the tender and the cab. So that's an option at some point. But it's the first decoder I fitted, and success, so happy days. It took a while though. Not the decoder. The fitting the decoder was pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Using the Digihat thing, that was fairly straightforward. A bit fiddly, but not too bad. The worst bit was putting all the con rods together after totally stripping down the wheels to clean them, which has probably never been done, not since I've had it anyway. So that was a good job to do. But yeah, trying to fit all the little parts back on the con rods, that was quite difficult, and dozens of attempts over several hours. So yeah, be warned, if you want to take a steam engine apart with lots of con rods on it, they're difficult. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and I'll see you next time.